Hey guys, so today I'm going to be filming the never before seen on Booktube tag. This was created by Emma over at the Bookish Princess, and in this, the only thing that the tag is you just talk about books that you've never heard of on Booktube or that you think should be heard of, talked about. So I have a few books. Let's just jump right into it. The first book that I'm going to talk about is Rebel Genius by Michael Dante DiMartino. This guy is one of the co-creators of Avatar: The Last Airbender. When I heard that he was writing a book, I was so excited. This has to do with art. Like, they're not allowed to do art. There's something forbidden about doing art, which is really cool. I haven't read it yet, but I haven't heard anybody talk about this. And Avatar: The Last Airbender is like such a popular thing and everybody loves it on Booktube. Nobody has talked about this book, and I think people should because it sounds really good and I'm excited, and I'm very sorry if you hear my dog jingle jangling in the hallway. The next book that I have, I've only heard about once, and that was like recently. It was like 2 days ago I heard about it, and that is A Tale for the Time Being by Ruth Ozeki. And this is about a girl who is getting bullied at school, and she starts to write about her grandma, I think, her great-grandmother, who was a Zen Buddhist nun, in her diary. And then there's also like another storyline where a Hello Kitty lunchbox washes up on the beach, and inside is the story of this girl's great-grandmother. So there's two parallel storylines that kind of come together, and it sounds really good. I heard Joss from Scribbles Reads talk about it in like her, I think it was her YouTube recommends, Booktube recommends video or whatever, but that was the only time I've ever heard anybody talk about this book. And I just saw it in the bookstore once because I thought it was pretty, and I was like, okay, I'll buy it and I'll read it. And I'm really excited now that I heard one person talk about it, but I need more people to talk about this book. The next book slash author is Robert M. Drake. He's a poet. I've never heard anybody talk about him. I see his books like all the time in bookstores, like they're very much like there, and like I always notice them, but I've never heard anybody actually like read his poetry and talk about it. I read Broken Flowers last month and really loved it, and I keep telling everybody to read it, so like hopefully people will like start talking about him, but I haven't heard anybody talk about him. He's a really great poet. This is the only book of poetry of his that I've read. He also writes short stories. I have I think all of his books except for one. I have them all except for the blue one. I know that much. I forget what it's called. But his poetry's so good. Like, you could see I tabbed this a whole lot. So I just want people to talk about him. It's so good. The next book that I'm going to talk about is Kingdom Keepers, which is like the Disney fiction. I read these books when I was little. I read the first few. I reread this one last year, but like I never hear anybody talk about these, and like Disney, everybody freaking loves Disney. Why isn't anybody reading these books or talking about them? Like, I know they're kind of old, and maybe they were talked about, maybe they were talked about like earlier in the Booktube times, but like it's since I've been on Booktube, I haven't heard anybody talk about this series. This is about these kids that go into the Disney parks in Florida after dark. That's why it's called the Disney After Dark series. And they fight off the villains because the villains are trying to take over the parks. Like, that sounds so cool. I haven't read this whole series yet, but like these books are so short and they take like 5 seconds to read. So I just want to know why people don't talk about these books more. The next book is a series that I found over the summer when I was like really into high fantasy, and I started reading this book but I never finished, and that was The Dawn of the Dragons by James A. Owen. The series is called The Age of the Dragons. I've never even heard anybody talk about this author. I found this book because I thought the covers were really cool, and I freaking love dragons, and obviously dragons are like a very prominent thing in this series. These are high fantasy books. They're very large. This book is like 650 pages, I think, but the third one is like 1,000 pages. But like, what I read of this was so good. Like, why don't people talk about this? I couldn't even tell you what it was about, but there's dragons. So if you like dragons, check this out because it's really good. And then the last book that I have to talk about is my childhood favorite book of all time. I don't have the dust jacket on it. I don't know why I still say that in my videos, but I literally wrote my name and put a sticker in this. Like, I've had this book since I was in the 5th grade, and that is Rules by Cynthia Lord. This is about a little girl who has a brother who has autism, and she just, like, she's, like, kind of embarrassed by him because she doesn't know how to, he doesn't know how to deal with it, and she just, like, tells him, like, she gives him a set, he has, like, a set of rules, and she's like, David, don't do that. I think his name is David. I don't really remember. But then, when her brother goes in for, like, his therapy, she meets this boy in the waiting room. I forget his name too, but he can't talk. Like, he has like a disability where he can't talk, but he has this binder with words, and he like points to the words, and that's how he communicates, and they have like a little friendship, and it's just so good. It's like such an important novel. I read this, I remember in the 5th grade I read this because the cover has like a rubber duck on it, and I thought it was cool, so then I borrowed it from the library at school, and I loved it so much I made my mom go out and buy it for me because it was that good. And I want more people to read this book. It has to do with autism and autism awareness, which is so important. There's not enough books about that. I don't know if it's Own Voices. Those are all the books that I don't know why nobody's talking about on Booktube, because they're really really good, or they sound really good, etc. But I've never heard about those books at all on Booktube, and I think that should change. So if you want to do this tag, I tag you. This was really fun, so Emma, if you're watching this, thank you, because this was a fun thing to do. Yeah, thank you guys for watching my video. That was really awkward. Thanks for watching my video. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Give this video a thumbs up, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!